Bureaucrats are projected to blow their budget by nearly $5 million, and they expect you to pay for it. This week, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation held a special hearing before the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee. There, they attempted to make the case for why they need an emergency supplemental appropriation to get them through the rest of the fiscal year. To summarize, they forgot to pay attention to their budget and would like you to fund the difference. On this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays, we will dive into how the division managed to overspend so much, how the legislature is addressing it, and what you need to know about the outcome. So what happened in JFAC on Wednesday? The director of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, Jane Donnellan, testified before the committee to explain to them why she needed more money for her division. The division noted in committee and in their letter to the governor dated Tuesday that their fiscal team was erroneously checking spending against cash balances instead of their budget. This happens because income streams can vary in some agencies. In some cases, there can be more cash in their accounts than they are allowed to spend in their budget. In the case of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, the agency was not paying attention to how much funding they were obligating relative to what the legislature approved for them to spend. This created a shortfall that they only caught because the computer blocked their ability to overspend. The agency noted they would use salaries from vacant positions to cover $550,000 of the cost, roll over some balances to the next fiscal year, and reduce some services. This resulted in the total request for the current fiscal year of $2.7 million. The legislative response to this audacious request was quite weak. JFAC voted to fully fund the agency's supplemental request, barring some votes from conservatives. Senator Kevin Cook of Idaho Falls made a move to revoke appropriations to add 2 new staff and fund replacement items in the next fiscal year. But this punishment fizzled out when ultimately no funds were taken away. Instead, the committee simply added intent language that they couldn't hire for positions and couldn't spend the money on replacement items. Rather than restricting the agency, this move had the effect of giving them more than $250,000 in discretionary funding. This budget was ultimately held at the desk in the House of Representatives. Why? Director Donnellan was unable to describe to the committee how much the agency owed to vendors for services rendered. This lack of transparency makes one wonder why we would give them any new money at all. When someone followed up with vendors about the cash balances the agency claimed to owe, they found the values were severely inflated. So for the time being, the bill sits in limbo. So, should you fund bureaucratic malfeasance? The short answer is no, but here's why. The first reason is the division is squarely outside the proper role of government and is largely co-opted by federal bureaucrats. The agency receives nearly 3/4 of its appropriations from federal funding to support its programs. What programs exactly? According to the director, activities of the division could include subsidizing college, job coaching, career exploration, and workforce readiness, all of which could and should be functions and activities of the private sector. In fact, many of these are. At this point, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is practically a broker of private services and federal funding. The second reason is less specific to the agency. Merely not paying close enough attention to how much you're spending against your budget is not a good enough reason to come to taxpayers to foot the bill. The agencies should be forced to make cuts to ensure obligations are met. They are already spending beyond their means. The division noted in its plans to set, quote, fiscally responsible budgetary limits, educate staff to help be good stewards of funds, and review appropriations and cash balances monthly as part of their corrective action plan. But these controls should have already been in place, and managing spending within the division's appropriated authority should not be a foreign concept. In sum, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is seeking fiscal relief for gross mismanagement of their spending. This is so severe, in fact, that they don't even know how much they owe vendors. Taxpayers should not be on the hook for this. Perhaps this is yet another agency the state should reconsider and seek ways to return these services to the free market, where they belong. Thank you for supporting the content we produce at the Idaho Freedom Foundation. Be sure to like and subscribe to help spread our message of freedom, family, and small government. To get some of our great content, including the 2024 Freedom Index, please be sure to visit idahofreedom.org.